Let's talk about Minnesota, or St. Paul in particular. Now, this is prime example why democracies suck, and the voters are clearly a lot of progressives will talk about like, oh, the will of the people, the will of the people. Well, the will of the people has been expressed, and it's horrible. Now, I understand, yes, yes, yes. You can have dictators that are insulated from any kind of bad news. Nobody wants to bring them, tell them anything bad, so they get crazier and crazier, yes. But it's a very, very, very low bar, right? So, but look at here. So basically, St. Paul, Minnesota, they passed one of the craziest rent control measures imaginable, or it was just like somebody just put on the ballot. The voters passed it, and ta-da, and then caught the whole real estate industry by surprise. And I was arguing with somebody on Facebook, and then I predicted exactly what's going to happen. So the main issue is this. Even though developers would probably, there was a lot of projects. I mean, that whole area was booming. There was a lot of houses being built in the city and around the surrounding suburbs in the state. But the issue is the critical problem that I saw was bank lending. Because even though developers had, they got their plans approved from the city, they got building permits, they were about to, they got their green light, they're about to go ahead. And even though the rent control was passed, they were still willing to move forward with it because they put in so much time and effort into it. But whoop, rug pull, the banks, the financing. And I called it. I was telling somebody on Facebook, they're like, this is not going to work because the banks are going to like any kind of, like, yes, if they already made the loan, there's isn't crap they can do about it. They're stuck. But they're in the process of lending money to a developer. They were just going to pull it. They were going to get scared. This kind of crap was not in their calculations. And they pulled it, and sure enough, permits and whatever, like things are down 80% in the city. And the person that I was arguing with, this progressive, or we're just having having a conversation with, basically, like, well, I guess we just need to find. I told him point blank. Well, I think all the lenders are going to pull their, even though developers want to go ahead, all the lenders are going to pull their loans. Then you know what I mean, because this is a very unknown thing. I mean, this is extremely risky. It's not even about making any kind of money. It's about actually losing money. So like, well, maybe this is like a thing where we need to explore different ways of how housing should be funded. And it's like, you have people like, not even hedge funds, but you have like family trust funds that probably, the family is from the city, a rich family or whatever, and they want to feel proud and happy. Like, you already have hundreds or thousands of investors, of rich people, of billions of dollars that want to invest in your city. They want to feel proud, and when they want to feel like they're contributing to their city that they grew up in, they'll feel proud of building housing and creating, like, turning like a bad neighborhood or turning or whatever, like from like an empty lot to housing where people live and thrive. I mean, they might not even demand such a big return for their income. You know what I mean? Money. They just want to do it. They want to help the city. This is a pride to them. Why would you want to turn their money away and have the government build housing? But with the government, there's like so many people fighting for the same funds. These type of and all these families and all these investments, all, like, even Wall Street, all they want is like a tiny bit of return. They're not want to like, oh, we're gonna make a killing like Scrooge McDuck style. Like, no, we just want A, not to lose money, and B, to make a little bit of income above inflation. Well, do voters understand that? Of course they don't. A lot of these voters are just like just renters themselves. They never financed a building project. They just things that automatically gets built because of greed. Well, so here we go. Minnesota state law already makes it difficult for cities to enact rent control ordinances. Oh, so this author is saying what a heroic thing they did. It's so difficult to enact rent control ordinance. It's like, no. Voters can throw a wrench in the business all the time. It's hard not to screw up things. It's easy to screw up things. Minneapolis and St. Paul just did in November. Minneapolis by authorizing the council to craft an ordinance, and St. Paul by approving a citizen drafted one. And that's where they messed up. Usually, they exempt new development from rent control. Only this time, boneheads, because this is like a populist thing, they didn't. But on Tuesday, Senate committee approval a bill that would not only remove the voter-approved pathway for rent control, but make it change retroactively to November 1st of last year. That would cancel rent control approved by voters in both cities. While the bill, Senate File 3414, is unlikely to pass the DFL-controlled House, it sparks a concern among state Republicans that the ordinances could impact housing construction. What do you mean could? It 100% does and will. Now, to me, screw them. The damage has already been done. This city needs to learn a lesson. If I was a bank, and then even if they miraculously overturn this rent control, if I was an investor or a bank, I would just say screw this city. There's too much. It's too volatile here. I wouldn't do it. After passing through the Senate Housing Committee, the bill was advanced by Senate Local Government Committee. Quote, we all know rent costs too much. We all know buying a house costs too much. That's partly because of supply and demand. So, but rent control ordinances, especially St. Paul, which doesn't accept new construction, will make supply problems even worse. That's obvious. So here we go. Where's the rebuttal? Minneapolis City Council member Robin Wonsley Warlaba told committee that renters in the city are, quote, cost burdened as a result of the for-profit housing market. Oh, and you wouldn't be rent burdened if it was non-profit, if it was just the government supplying everything. It's like, what a joke. It's like these people. Did she ever go to the grocery store? Does she understand that a lot of things that people buy they're plentiful? There's not a shortage. They're not like a rice and beans burdened. That's cheap as hell. Why? That's a full profit industry. Don't you think the growers, the producers of rice and beans, they're greedy too, right? Wouldn't they just jack up the price so high? No, but somehow some things that are not really like lightly regulated, their costs really cheap. I wonder why. What the voters did not ask for is elected leaders like yourselves to preempt them, nor did they ask you to undermine them. Yes, these idiots, they deserve to have super high housing costs. Yeah, screw them. I really want them to, dude, even add to this rent control. I was feeling optimistic when I saw my vote to change the charter to allow rent stabilization was successful. Now I'm very concerned my vote will be nullified. Don't worry, the government programs are never overturned. The problem I have with this bill is that thwarted the will of the people when so many young people are increasingly cynical towards the democratic process. Yeah. Even some Republicans expressed concern about the part of the bill that makes it retroactive. Durham, if he would consider removing that section, said he would vote for the bill out of committee, but it wasn't certain that he would vote for the bill reaches the Senate floor. Local Government Committee Chair John Janowski said that he needs to act if local government actions affected more than those who live inside their borders. Quote, if it has impact on overall health of our state, then maybe we should step in. Yeah, it's... I mean, what's that famous quote by Grover Norquist? Some people's lives are not a complete waste. They serve as a bad example. Well, screw you, Minneapolis. You should be a shining example of bad examples. You should have your rent prices go through the roof to send a clear message that, if you mess with the market, you undermine ability for people to make a modest return. Well, all economic interactions, it's like a two-way street. They're a win-win. And if you're going to make win-lose, then it's not going to happen. So screw them.